They know my name.
They do. They even are kind of happy to see you sometimes.
I don't know why they would be, but I try.
Well, a warm welcome to you all. This video is about the rewarding discomforts of carnivore. I'm JJ, I'm a life coach, and I eat mostly meat.
I'm Eric, I'm a novelist, and I eat mostly meat.
Now, moving into the carnivore diet, you have to have the right mindset. You have to be ready to experience some discomfort. And this goes from having the cognitive dissonance of being taught your entire life that you should be eating all the veggies and all the healthy whole grains, and this is your path to health. So there's that cognitive dissonance, but there's also that whole thing where you have to come out of the closet and tell people eventually, yeah, I eat only meat, and you get their responses. Right. And even I've even dealt with a little sabotage. Also,
Yeah, that's true.
People sort of trying to sabotage my efforts. So there's that discomfort, and then there's the discomfort of adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you get beyond all of those discomforts, though, what you find, it's almost magical. There's this, for the first time, you're able to read your hunger signals. You have the satiation. You have more energy, better mood. You get to be fully alive and fully human.
This carnivore perspective applies not only to our diet, but to other areas of life. And the word you just mentioned, satiating, I think is central to it, is understanding how to recalibrate other aspects of life to find satiety rather than continuous indulgence. And one example, in our current world, we have a constant flow of tragedy, war, disaster, celebrity conflict.
Don't even get me started on the royals.
Competing political views, and if you're on social media, it's just constant. As I thought about the carnivore perspective, I was like, now wait a minute. We think about an ancestrally appropriate diet. Well, what is the ancestrally appropriate way to learn about the world? Where is the focus? It certainly wasn't on events any farther than the horizon. So if you saw a storm coming, you would be worried about that. If you saw a forest fire with smoke filling up the horizon, you'd be worried about that. If you saw an army carrying spears, you'd be concerned about that. But most of your concerns, most of your natural animal vigilance would be focused on near dangers and resources that you could use. What does this mean for finding satiety? The constant dose of distant drama is like a sugar addiction. You will overindulge because you blow past all your satiety signals. You will want to go back very soon to see what's new, rather than the attention being here and in the near neighborhood.
With your family, with your friends,
with your
extended family, community. A few years back, it was the holiday season, and I was feeling really good, like really happy, and just, this was before carnivore too. Something in me started seeking, like I can't feel good and satisfied because I have a friend whose daughter has cancer, and this other person's going through divorce, and this other person just lost their mom. So I was actually pulling all these things that I had learned on social media. I was not close enough to these people to know that. They were not calling me up when their mom died. It was all through social media that I was learning it. And I realized, oh my gosh, I am bringing myself down with this. Intentionally, and not allowing myself to have that happiness. And so as a result, I scaled incredibly back on certain forms of social media because I realized that I could not carry other people's burdens around the world. Even if our lives have touched briefly or even for several years in grade school, I can't carry their burdens any longer.
You didn't evolve to do it.
Right.
If they are in your immediate family and in your immediate community, then because you know them, you have a relationship with them, then it makes sense to expend that emotional care, and if it can result in some sort of contributory action. And this is where the empty calories of online engagement really come from, is the sense of doing something, the sense of being moral because of having the right reaction to the disaster. There is no active service in that action.
Yeah.
It's completely empty. And all of the emotional draining effort that goes into paying attention and holding on to the world's drama actually robs the body and the spirit of energy that needs to be applied here.
I believe that when we're able to apply it closer to home, whatever that looks like for you, then we do feel more fulfilled, that we do have more satisfaction when we're able to give service to people who are in our lives on the day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And that is where the meaning and satisfaction comes from.
But it's like a sugar addiction in that it hijacks the human brain.
Yeah.
And that constant flow of stimulation and new information and news and a sense of something important's happening, and I have to know it to be a good citizen, to be an informed citizen.
We do need to know certain things so we can vote and be a good citizen.
Of course.
Yet that is a certain percentage of your attention, focus, energy.
Yeah.
And the bulk of our focus, attention, and energy, we were designed, developed to be near home.
We evolved as hunters, looking for the resources and the dangers close by. And of course, someone might come through to trade with our village, and then we'd say, what's happening, over the river and across the mountain? And like, oh, I heard a village burned down and people had terrible diseases. And the reaction is, oh, that sounds really scary. I hope they don't come here. And that is part, both fortunately and unfortunately, I think, is that we evolved to be parochial creatures, which parochial has a negative connotation as this very narrow, insular view of the world. But the truth is, we're not equipped to deal with an entire globe.
An entire globe.
We're really only equipped to deal with a certain amount of it.
Yeah.
And everything else has to be taken in moderation.
Yes. Now, is this easy?
No! From the carnivore perspective, what's ancestrally appropriate is action. And I haven't developed the thought entirely, but I feel like what's ancestrally appropriate is a life that is satiating, like a carnivore diet is satiating, because the reward follows the effort. A lot of social media scrolling is putting the reward before any sort of effort is done. When you've actually done some sort of strenuous mental or physical work, and then you stand back and are able to look at it, the sense of satisfaction is way higher. And then sleep is better, relationships are better, not only because you feel more confident in what you've done, but you've also contributed something.
Yeah.
You've made something, you've constructed something rather than consumed something.
I had a mentor back in 2018 who focused me on satisfaction. And I began organizing my life around satisfaction. And this is not just like the carnal sugar satisfaction. I don't think you feel satisfied after sugar for very long.
No.
You might get a little, that was really good.
You might get that warm rush, but it's like a drug.
Yeah.
It immediately goes away.
Yeah. An hour later, you're not satisfied. You're not satiated. And so I actually started organizing my life around what is most satisfying to me.
Having a real struggle with the idea of what's satisfactory, because satisfactory to me is a C-.
Yes.
Satisfactory is you've done the minimum. But that's not what satisfaction actually means.
No. Think about it in terms of carnivore.
Yeah.
It's feeling Full, nourished, fulfilled.
So trying to extend this idea to what's ancestrally appropriate to other areas of life. Now, one area that came to my mind immediately, Andrew Huberman talks about how important light is to the circadian clock and eventually the quality of the sleep you get. So one of his pieces of advice is, early in the morning when you first get up, go outside and get sunlight into your eyes for 5-10 minutes. And that will actually reset your clock. So then approximately 16 hours later, you will become drowsy and you will have an easier time going to sleep. If we think from a carnivore standpoint about light and what is ancestrally appropriate light, it really is probably the daytime, moonlight, which is very cyclical, and fire. Now, I'm not suggesting that we abandoned the advantages of civilized electrical grids and light bulbs, but we already know that if you stare into this while you're in bed, not only getting the empty calories of social media engagement from far distant places into your brain, you're blasting LED light directly into your eyeballs, and that is going to disrupt the circadian clock. But the body doesn't have a built-in as much of a satiety signal
For
around light consumption.
Except for, wait a minute, we live in Wisconsin. During those winter months, when it is dark, our bodies know it. And so there is a little I think there is a built-in satiety cue, but it's like a longer term one. Like you don't feel it on the daily basis. But if you're in the dark for days and months because it's winter,
We feel deprivation.
we feel
That's
deprivation.
for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. Maybe it's more necessary than dark. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I think that we've been hijacked by electric lights to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah.
Because humans naturally, we're vigilant creatures, have a preference to be able to see our environment. Because that way we don't stub our toe over a rock and we see the snake by our bed and the scorpion. And when we were talking about this video, we were like, it's almost cliche now to say it, but our culture has become like the Pixar movie WALL-E, where the people in the spaceship rode around on hover scooters with a giant big gulp. Those writers saw what we were right on the verge of happening right at that time. And then it's almost like, that sounds good, let's do that. Is what happened with our society.
Oh my goodness.
And the elimination or the resistance to discomfort is, and this is from my direct experience, is a path to misery. If you want to make gains in your fitness, you have to continuously do a little bit harder workout each time. You've got to go a little bit longer run, a little faster run. You've got to lift a slightly heavier weight. You have to go into the discomfort. And this is true with social things. It's very easy for me in my current situation to have no social interactions at all, which is my preferred state.
Yeah.
But it's not good for me as a carnivore thinking human who evolved to have ancestrally appropriate community relationships.
That day we went to Carrie's meetup here in Wisconsin, we actually had 2 social events that day. And that was a big deal. And you were very intentional about, I want to do both events and be a part of the carnivore community that we've met online, as well as this other event that was people who live directly in our community and actually who I work with in youth theater.
Yeah. People who I actually have met.
Yeah, who have been to our property.
They know my name.
They do. They even are kind of happy to see you sometimes.
I don't know why they would be, but I try.
But I mean, you avoided them, not because of them.
No, I didn't know them.
But you managed to not know them for like 8 years.
It's a vicious cycle. I don't know them, so I don't want to meet them.
Yeah.
Because meeting them is stressful. And they might not like me, I might not like them. I don't know what we'll talk about because I have very little willingness to talk about surface level topics with people. Although I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
But it's another example of not living an ancestrally appropriate and existence. Now, I think that humans are obviously very social. We're seeing a generation now whose friendships are almost entirely through their phones. And that cannot be good for them.
No, I don't think it is. We're learning about this. Like these are new epiphanies. This carnivore lifestyle is
We are
new.
not exemplars of this.
No, we are not. and yet, we bought this property a couple years ago, and our intention, and it was before Carnivore that we bought this.
That's right.
And our intention was to spend our next 25 years or more, especially now that we are carnivore, in working on the land and having it being a gathering place for family and friends and community.
That's right.
So we are working on having a more ancestrally appropriate life as we age.
One of the things that happened recently that made it so clear to me that we are completely disconnected with ancestrally appropriate living was when our young dog Arrow killed a full-grown turkey hen.
Yes, I was there taking him for a run on the property, which means he was running and I follow behind in our side-by-side, and he's been hunting like crazy. He's just been awakened to hunting at age 6 years old.
Ancestrally appropriate wolfness has emerged from this dog.
It really has. And so he had caught a baby possum the day before, but he killed it. I don't think it was just playing possum. And then the very next day, he came upon a fully grown large turkey hen, and the hen was bleeding out of its beak. It did not appear like it was going to live. And I did not know what to do with this poor turkey. I did not know how to dispatch it, nor did I have anything with me to do the job. And I felt a little paralyzed around it. And clearly, someone who had been raised in a community of hunters
Or farmers.
would have been able to take care of that situation.
And would have used it as a resource.
Yeah.
We saw it as a problem because now the next time we're there, the dogs are going to want to tear it up or roll in it or whatever. And we didn't want to deal with the mess. And so I was like, I hope that some fox or something finds it and the circle of life does what it's going to do. And that was my initial thought. It was only later that I'm like, wait a minute. We should eat that turkey.
Yeah.
But every step between dispatching it, defeathering it, plucking it, gutting it, is completely outside of any level of skill, knowledge, or
Comfort.
or gumption. Even
gumption.
at this stage in my life.
Yeah.
And it's concerning. I feel like we've always been told we are disconnected from the foods that we eat. We just think it comes from the grocery store. My dad used to lecture me about that. Did he do anything to show me or guide me or teach me to hunt? He did not. In Wisconsin, there's a lot of hunters who they were like, yeah, delicious.
Well, it was about a week later, I was like, I could have at least called my friend's son.
Yeah, because he would have known what to do.
Because he would have known what to do with it. He works right down the road, and they probably would have had it for dinner.
Yeah. So we're not exemplars of it, but
No.
this idea of taking the fundamental principle of carnivore, getting back to what's ancestrally appropriate, species appropriate, and thinking about other areas of life is extremely powerful. Don't know how we're going to implement or what we're going to do going forward. I am not giving up all of the amenities of technology.
No.
And
And we don't want you to go away.
everything, you should drop everything but YouTube.
But not at night.
Yeah. Well, put on some blue blocking glasses.
There you go.
And then you can watch us at night.
There you go.
So